Are you able to show us some of your gold? I received a little bit yesterday as we ran. With few larger flakes, it actually appears to be rather pure gold. There are some nuggets in you. I've been saving these nuggets for years. There you have it. This is a story about an Alaskan gold discovery worth $5.8 million. But it's not what you might think. You won't believe what else Freddy and Juan took from the dirt. But we'll tell you all about the mountains of gold they discovered. Items that suggest a history that looks improbable, lost conflicts, and ancient visits. A series of strange mishaps and disturbing incidents soon turned this finding from a dream into a nightmare for their camp. Regarding the financial aspect, we estimated that the material we would require in the area would cost about $3.500. In terms of our efforts, I believe we'd want to see an ounce and a half at the end of the season. Deal. Then let's get better. Does that sound good? Heal, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, I'm doing fine. Oh, many people are obsessed with gold. What they discovered was considerably more hazardous and valuable. Ghosts, greed, and gold. Stories and legends of lost mines, of fortunes acquired and lost, and of regions so remote and hazardous that even the most experienced prospectors dare not enter, can be found in the untamed heart of Alaska, where the mountains reach the sky and the rivers flow with ice secrets. One such location was a valley, a region that had been avoided for over a century. Ancient legends hinted at vast gold reserves, but they also described a curse that clung to the soil itself and cast a shadow over the country. This was an area where miners had disappeared and where overnight fortunes had turned to ruin, you see. You have to stay away from it. However, it was an invitation for seasoned prospector Freddy Dodge and his reliable technician John. They sensed potential when others failed to see it. When it comes to gold mining, the largest risks can occasionally result in the biggest returns. This is something that no one tells you. Freddy and Juan gathered their resources for a high-stakes wager on the Forgotten Valley while other operations adhered to tried-and-true routes. They were pursuing a fable that most people had dismissed, a ghost. They knew the stories were real the instant their equipment sank into the ground. The story about the gold, not the scary ones. The first pails of soil appeared, flecked with bright yellow. It was more than dust. The gold was big and weighty, one of those once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. Their little business extracted more than $1.2 million worth of raw gold nuggets in 10 days. Actually, it appears to be rather pure gold with a few larger flakes. Do you have some nuggets? I've been sieving these nuggets for years. There you have it. The volume was astounding. Due to its rarity and beauty, a single gold nugget may be worth more than its weight in processed gold. And hundreds of them were being discovered. Treasure practically paved the ground. Excitement was in the air at their camp. The continuous hymn of achievement is the hum of machinery, the dreams being lived by them. Their total kept rising as each day brought a larger haul. However, not everything is as it seems. Stranger things started to emerge as they continued to dig in search of the rich pastry. The machine began to uncover darker pieces beside the gleaming gold. They were initially discarded, splinters of wood that appeared to be strangely carved, shards of ancient bone, and twisted, corroded nails that looked nothing like any hardware found today. It was strange but not wholly unexpected in a historically significant land. It might have come from a failed mining venture a century ago or from an ancient trapper hut. However, a feeling of disquiet started to permeate the group. The objects didn't feel right. Freddy felt it most since he had read the land for decades. He had a hunch that these objects weren't meant to be discovered, that they were a part of a separate narrative that wasn't related to a straightforward gold rush. The spirits of the valley were being relinquished along with its treasure. And the most important findings were still to come. The discovery of a relic that would alter everything was imminent. There are a few exquisite things in there. We discovered some extremely fine gold. It adds up, but buy new gold. Time versus an axe. The gold continued to flow, an unfathomable flow of riches that seemed to go on forever. The miners were in a good mood and worked frantically. However, the odd finds persisted, diverting their focus from the wealth. Juan's palm clasped around something cold and metallic one afternoon as he was sorting through the pay dirt. The buckle was so rusted that it was hardly distinguishable. Faint engravings emerged when he cleaned it. A sign and a knot work pattern that raised the hair on his arm. A snake ingesting its own tail. It had almost medieval appearance. The design was completely inappropriate for the remoteness of Alaska. Even though a lot of people are fascinated by historical oddities, this was quite bizarre. This was not feasible. When the excavator struck again a few days later, it discovered a hand-forged charred axe head. Unlike the instruments used by local Aboriginal tribes or pioneers on the frontier, its design was harsh and strange. It felt heavier, older, and as though it had been crafted in a previous era for a different reason. The mystery grew more complex. Who were these individuals? How did they end up in this valley? I talked to an elder from a nearby hamlet in search of answers. The elders related ancient tales of strange men who arrived from the sea, before America was ever born. The later prospectors were not like these folks. They were unique, and the local folklore associated them with a sinister past. The elder cautioned that the valley recalled them. They couldn't help but feel as though they were walking on hallowed historical territory. Does an amber weigh a lot? It weighs a much. Cleaning up is a tremendous pain in the ass. Yes, it is really difficult to separate it from your gold. A secondary thought was the gold. They were about to make a discovery that might change the course of history. Then came the moment of devastation. Overworked to follow the gold seam, they cleared away when the excavator struck something firm and unyielding. Bedrock, wasn't it? The line of thick black wood was straight and clean. They had located a building. They started digging carefully by hand and discovered a precisely square imprint of timbers that had been hand-hewn. It was a buried chamber's roof. The camp was enveloped in a panting hush. What had they discovered? They struggled through a doorway and went down into the shadows. The air within was still and frigid. The chamber was modest, with the same old timbers and heaped stones bracing its walls. They noticed more of those rusted, hand-forged nails everywhere, and pottery fragments painted with faint faded colors in the weak light. The interior stones of the chamber walls, however, were the site of the most astonishing find. There were faded but distinct symbols carved into the rock. There was a poorly carved cross next to what appeared to be Norse runes, the Vikings' ancient alphabet. Timelines and cultures collided in an incomprehensible way. Centuries before Columbus, Alaska was home to Vikings. The proof was directly in front of them, but the hypothesis had long been written off as fantasy. There were more secrets in the chamber than merely the stone-carved glyphs. Fortune's heavy toll. Finding the chamber ought to have been a moment of unadulterated joy. They had discovered a possible Viking settlement in North America, in addition to a $5.8 million gold treasure. This type of discovery turns a person into a legend. However, the excitement was fleeting as a growing dread took its place. The problem about uncovering the past that no one tells you is that it might push back at times. The look of the camp started to change. One haul alone brought in an additional $1.7 million, demonstrating the ongoing spike in gold production. However, the cost of this fortune was starting to become horrifyingly obvious. After weeks of perfect operation, the machine started to malfunction in strange ways. Additionally, a spring-equipped arm will be installed. However, as this belt rotates, the belt will be cleaned by moving to this edge. In order to prevent material and water loss down this conveyor's rear. Unexpectedly, hydraulic lines burst, electrical systems failed, and the engine seized. Juan, a skilled mechanic, couldn't understand. After resolving one issue, two more would arise. They felt as though something evil was against them. Then, everything got out of hand. A worker was hurt in a minor landslide, produced by a normal excavation, just escaping a much more dire outcome. Particularly in the hazardous field of mining, where one mistake might be your last. Accidents do happen. However, the occurrence's regularity and oddness felt distinct. Rumor of the ancient folklore began to resurface. The valley's curse. The men became silent and wary, looking anxiously at the chamber's shadowy entrance. It all weighed heavily on Freddy. Although he was a rational and logical man, he was unable to ignore what was taking place. They had awakened up what should have remained buried, and he felt like they had trespassed. You know, PJ is pretty damn decent on that excavator for a 16-year-old. I don't know many 16-year-olds who are capable of operating such machinery. Fear and a heavy sense of responsibility had taken the place of the excitement of the finding. Eventually, the world learned of their amazing discovery, both the gold and the relics. Initially dubious, a group of archaeologists and historians showed up at the camp. As soon as they saw the objects in the chamber, their doubts were dispelled. Theories were circulating among them. Was an early Russian mission, a lost Viking longship crew, or something more enigmatic, such as a Templar voyage? According to startling findings from carbon dating, the pieces of wood and bone were hundreds of years older than any recognized presence of Europeans in the area. It was history, and the discovery was genuine. The miners continued to dig, and the valley continued to unveil its mysteries while the scholars argued. They discovered a little ivory figurine of a man with radiating crown and large-looking eyes, as well as a copper pendant carved with a motif like a compass rose. Every additional artifact added to the impossibly large puzzle. However, every new finding also seems to agitate the valley's invisible powers. The odd happenings became more intense. Don't let this hanging wall get to you. It looks like you have it cribbed in a few spots. Like that, in a few small pieces. Yes, you'd find relics relocated off a table. On security cameras, pale orbs of light emerged. Additionally, some people reported hearing voices whispering on the wind at night. The camp was tense. They felt more burdened than blessed by the vast money they had discovered. Their discovery totaled an astounding $5.8 million in unprocessed gold nuggets. Take a look at that. Whoa, oh my God, that was just a portion of that, pan-sized. Yes, you are the masters because of this. In any case, we are something. Freddy, however, was aware that the money was not the main plot point. We recently completed the second test, and to be honest, it went rather well. As he examined the antiquated relics, he sensed a bond with a history that went beyond the gold itself. The valley then issued its last ominous warning, greater than a mine. The camp's tension reached a breaking point. The miners felt uneasy. The historians were overburdened. Freddy also experienced a strong sense of foreboding. He thought the chamber still held the answer. A heavy moan came from the entrance to the buried building one evening as the Alaskan darkness descended over the valley. The ground trembled, and the entrance fell with a loud crack, enclosing the room beneath tons of dirt and rock. The message was clear, but no one was harmed. The excavation was finished. This is not a mine anymore. This is a tomb. The valley had reclaimed its secret, Freddy said grimly, staring at the debris. Freddy really wanted to see you guys leave Mercury. And the truth is that if you guys pay for the material, it's $1,000 for the material. This is where the story becomes really interesting, where it moves beyond the headlines and into the realm of speculation. For the average person, a story like this sounds like a fantasy. The thing is, when you delve into the world of Alaskan prospecting, you discover that truth is frequently stranger than fiction. We're willing to put in our labor. Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. A 5.8 million gold discovery. Ancient Viking ruins in Alaska, a curse. It feels like something out of a movie. Did this really happen overnight for two regular guys? Could we be missing some important details? Legends of lost mines and cursed grounds abound, and the state's history is based on amazing gold rushes like the Klondike Gold Rush, where an estimated 100,000 prospectors swarmed the area and many perished chasing their fortunes. What are we to make of this story? There are a few possibilities. One is that every detail is true. The artifacts, the chamber, the runes, they could be the smoking gun that rewrites our history books. The curse could be explained as a string of unfortunate coincidences heightened by the stress and superstition of working in a remote, eerie location. Freddy Juan discovered one of the most important archaeological sites in North American history, a site that demonstrates that Norse explorers traveled thousands of miles farther than ever thought possible. However, there is another way to look at it. Could the story have been improved? In the high-stakes world of gold mining, a sensational story can be worth nearly as much as the actual gold, drawing in investors, media attention, and television deals. Mining is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, and accidents happen and equipment malfunctions. The rest, the Viking ruins, the curse, the collapsing tomb, could be what some might call valuable fluff, a story constructed to turn a great discovery into a legendary one. The truth is, we are left with only the story without independent verification from the now sealed chamber. Maybe they found a significant amount of gold and a few odd but ultimately explainable historical oddities from early settlers or traders. And it's one hell of a story. A tale of incredible fortune, ancient mysteries, and a powerful reminder that some secrets are best left buried. Freddy himself seemed to understand this the best. I'm excited to see how this weighs out. Yeah, I hope it's turned around and gotten a little better. Time will tell, right? What do you think? Did they unearth a lost chapter of history, or did they fabricate the ultimate gold rush tale? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing stories. When asked about the enormous wealth, he simply replied, "Legends are heavier than gold."